What is the best chocolate in the world? And this has been our obsession, to source and discover the world's most beautiful chocolate. It's an obsession that's taken us over 20 years. And it's a mission that has taken us to the heart of the Amazon and to some of the most remote areas in the world, like the Solomon Islands or the wildernesses in Africa. And we have tasted maybe over 1,000 chocolates. But we think we might have found it. Yes, this is the best chocolate in the world. But before we reveal what it is, we have to define what it is. We must discover a taste like the grand finale of a firework display. A chocolate that pushes all your buttons at once. So I'm not looking for a single cello note. I'm looking for the full orchestra, an orchestra playing the greatest notes of all time. And it must be like a sort of masterpiece, like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Therefore, it has to be complex. For without complexity, there is no life. And I know what you're thinking, this guy is just full of BS, but wait for the story, because it's important. By definition, the most genetically diverse are going to taste the best. And yeah, we've looked at the scientific studies and we've looked at genetics. So this is not just opinion. We have science on our side. But to have the most beautiful chocolate, we also need the least trace of colonialism. And that means the least taste of imperialism. It must originate in the Amazon. We don't want the lingering taste and flavor of colonialism, because a beautiful chocolate should be about a beautiful world. And the two are connected. And I want to experience the same flavor of chocolate as the emperors of the Aztecs. I want to imagine Montezuma at the top of his temple, the emperor of the Aztecs. And I want to imagine climbing those steps and offering to somebody that thought chocolate was sacred, my chocolate. And I want his judgment. And as I climb those steps, of course, I know that he practices human sacrifice. So if I was bringing milk chocolate or white chocolate, I know that I'm in trouble. When I taste the most beautiful chocolate in the world, I want to wind the clock back at least 1,000 years. And when I say that colonialism messed everything up, I mean everything. And I need to explain that. It's like entering the world's largest library, stealing the poster at the front door, and burning down to ashes all the books inside. And then filling the shelves with a sort of comic book. And that's what happened to chocolate. And again, I know you're not going to believe me, but it also happened to vanilla. And it also happened to the potato. So if I tell you the story of the potato, you're going to understand why I believe it's the same story as chocolate. And this also happened to the Amazon. And we know that because we know the rainforest has been cut down or burnt and replaced with sugar plantations. But why is this guy banging on about diversity, comparing it to monoculture? Why does this matter? I don't care. I can go to the supermarket and the chocolate tastes fine to me. It doesn't affect me. Well, think again. And this is the story of a very simple food that cost the lives of millions of people. Now, of course, the food industry sells sugar as energy. And so they're going to be promoting very sweet foods. And we want to talk about high cocoa chocolate. And the sugar as energy is an enormous, bright, shining lie. Because, of course, sugar depletes your energy. And even the educated fall for this fraud. Big corporations want you to just enjoy sugar and simplicity. And that is a secret sauce to their profitability. And of course, they exploit your basest instincts. Oh, it tastes nice, it was simple, it was convenient, it was cheap. What could possibly go wrong? But of course, sugar is a weapon of mass destruction at a personal level, a societal level, and an environmental level. I mean, let me give you an example. Sugar can even turn a beautiful island like Jamaica into, and I quote directly, nothing less than hell on earth. And yeah, Edward Long should know because he wrote the book, The History of Jamaica. And we're talking the 18th century. And this is not new information. Queen Charlotte and the family of George III supposedly gave up sugar while drinking tea because they knew about the problems that sugar caused. So I'm not being a snob, and I'm not trying to promote expensive chocolate. I'm just laying the facts out as they exist. So this is important. Diversity is life, complexity is life, and nature knows this. But big corporations can't cope with this. They can't control nature, but they can control monoculture. But can you taste complexity? You can certainly taste diversity. And if your brain is the universe's most complex structure, then I can guarantee you that it likes complexity. And with complexity, of course, comes diversity. And of course, your brain is stimulated by that diversity. And okay, let's go. Right, what is this guy on about? I like my chocolate in my supermarket, and I just think he's full of bull, and you fill in the blanks. Well, I'm going to tell you a story, and this is going to change your mind. And the story is of a single potato, a humble potato. But this potato killed millions, and it forced millions to emigrate. Have you ever heard of the lumper potato? And I think you should have, because it played perhaps the cruelest trick on millions and millions of people. Now, potatoes were introduced from Peru, and Peru had maybe upwards of 3,000 to 5,000 varieties. And it's called Solonium tuberosum antigenean. And that translates roughly as it's a comfort truffle from the Andes. And of course, the potato adapted to the Andean environment. So short daylight conditions and very extreme temperature periods. So over a long period of time, this produced potatoes that were frost resistant, drought resistant, bitter, toxic varieties, fast growing, and many, many colored potatoes. And if you've been to Peru, you'll see the rainbow of colors that the potato is. And the Incas were very clever about this diversity because they knew that through diversity came strength. And don't forget, they're living in extreme geography with valleys, cliffs, high plateaus, varying rainfall, and they're operating at sometimes 4,000 meters. Now, because of that, you had small, isolated potato populations, and they adapted independently. So you can forget Machu Picchu when you're visiting Peru. You should visit Marais, which is an advanced agricultural laboratory. And in that laboratory, thousands of years before the Europeans, they were looking, or hundreds of years before the Europeans, they were looking at how microclimates affect the potato and its genetics. And the difference in temperature between the top and the bottom levels was as much as sort of between 15 and 27 centigrade. And they used crop experimentation to study how the crop responded to different wind patterns, different pesticides, different altitudes, and different sun exposures. And through that process, as I say, they developed between 3,000 and 5,000 varieties of potatoes. Now, I'm afraid to say that when Colonel Blimp of the colonists came along, they knew nothing of this. And these potato pirates just took maybe 12 varieties. And they did that to create cheap calories. and they took them from Peru, and of course they took them to Europe. And of course the population of Europe boomed from this simple source of potato calories. And if you add in coffee and chocolate, and you have the Age of Enlightenment, the Age of Revolution, the Glorious Revolution, the French Revolution. But the colonists never bothered to understand, and they had burnt the library down. They saw these stupid old stones that were circles called morae, and they let it just gather dust, and they forgot about the potato diversity. Now, have you ever heard of the Irish lumper? The Irish lumper was a tetraploid potato variety, meaning it carried 4 copies of each chromosome. And this variety, as we say, the Latin comfort truffle, was copied through cloning. So it was spread across Europe and most predominantly Ireland through cloning. Now, when you do that with one variety of potato, you've got a very low genetic diversity. In other words, all the lumper potato plants were genetically identical clones. Now, the big problem is that nature is going to exploit any weakness. And huge areas of Ireland basically relied on essentially the same cultivar. As you know, potatoes are propagated from tubers rather than true seeds. But in Peru, they were diverse and they were also propagated through seed, which meant there was genetic diversity. And we all know what happened because they were susceptible to blight. And the lumper lacked resistance genes against this infestation. And the pathogen behind the potato just ripped through the entire country, destroying the crops as it went. And of course, we all know the effects of the Irish potato famine. And it all boils down to the lack of diversity, the lack of complexity, which the Peruvians knew, but the colonists forgot. And that was a tragic story, resulting in millions dying and millions more emigrating. And I tell that story because we want to draw the same parallel with chocolate. You've got to go back and find the original diversity. And we found that. And it comes from Peru, a small area of the most genetically diverse chocolate in the world, and the very source of chocolate. We're not seeking the source of the Nile, but we are seeking the original source of chocolate. And that chocolate is called chuncho, and the other genetic variety, the mother of God. And that is the original chocolate. And we think that is the most beautiful chocolate in the world. So come and try it and let us know if you agree with us.